Well, indeed it is. Now, I've managed to find little Shongile's tracks, and I'm just trying to work out if these are the tracks where she came in last night, or these are the tracks that are leaving Djuma and going southwards again. So I'm just trying to see. It's really quite difficult because, well, I can't get out the car and actually track them, so I'm going to try and just use a car and see if I can't find where they went. I'll have to just check the southern boundary quickly to see if they don't go southwards or if they indeed are the ones that went northwards from yesterday. So let's try and see quickly. I'm just going to go around and check on the other side, and then from there I'll go towards Shabamu Pans, and maybe, just maybe, one of the two of them is hanging around, either Hosanna or Shongile. But I see Abel is already in front of me here, so I don't know if he's checked Weaver's Nest nicely and which way he's going to go. From there, no, he's going to go the other way, which is fantastic, so we'll leave him to go that way, and I can check nicely the other way. I just wanted to check here very carefully because we know Shongile and Hosanna often cross south from this section, and I just wanted to make sure that I don't find their tracks here before really getting too into it. Now, nothing that I can see there, so we're slowly going to just go along the southern boundary and just check if she didn't cross south. But it's amazing how small her feet are. I always forget how little Shongile's feet are, even though she's grown so much. She's got a tiny little track still, and in comparison to that of Hosanna's and even Tamba and Tandi's, it's still very little, and she's going to have to, well, probably grow into it a little bit more. No, that's not her, those are monkeys. So Justin, you're asking whether I think Shongile will be as successful as her mother. Well, Justin, it's difficult to say, but I really hope so. She's had the best teacher that's possible, and so I really hope that she will be. And given the fact that she's gone off on her own now after Kruger sort of disappeared and has been by herself at a year old, being a small leopard, and is still doing as well as she is and as healthy as she is really testament to the fact that she is an incredible little leopard in her own right already. So I think she should be fine, and hopefully she will be successful. In terms of motherhood, well, that's a whole different story, because at the end of the day, we know that with Karula she was a fantastic mom and she raised Shadow and Tundi. But if you look at Tundi on one hand, not a bad mom, has raised quite a few cubs. Look at Shadow on the other hand, unfortunately not so well. So that's all just dependent on where Shongile ends up settling. What's the dynamic between the other leopards that are around her? Is she on the fringes of males? Will there be a high hyena count in that area? Those are all things that we just don't know at this stage, and so whether or not she's going to be a successful mother, well, time will only tell. Now, the good thing is that I've been all the way along, and sorry, I just saw tracks there now, and I've checked pretty much quite far past where I had the tracks just now, and I don't see any going south. I just have tracks coming north, which, if we have a look here, is not for her, but looks like for little Hosanna. So that's also good news. But I'll try and pull past them so that you can actually see them. So we see them there, Seb. Always forget just how close we have to be. Maybe the car's going to be in the way, Seb. Let's just roll back a little bit and give you a bit more space. They should be there somewhere. Can you see them, Seb? There we go, there it is. So there's little Hosanna's track. The one in front might be a bit better, Seb. That one there, yeah. So there you can see it. You can see just the shadowing on the toes itself. And so that means that Hosanna has come in, but I can also see another track where he was weaving. So I'm just going to quickly have another look here and just make 100% sure what's going on with these tracks and where they actually go. While I do that, let's go all the way across to Stef and see what he's doing, driving and bumbling about in the Mara.
Ooh, caught me busy getting caught up in my car over here, all the wires and things. Now, It's so amazing that you are looking for wild dog with Tristan, because it allows me to take some time to explain why there's not so many wild dog here. Basically, is what I want to do. The closest wild dog that we know of is at that mountain there, which you're going to be going through to now. There in the distance, on the other side of that, is a den, and the wild dog are busy. Basically, at the moment, busy letting their pups turn from adolescents into adults, and so they're not spending too much time at that den. But that is a good 5 or 6 miles from here, and they never come into this area. The reason for that is these grasslands that you're looking at between us and where those dogs are denning. These grasslands support an amazing amount of large herbivores. Those large herbivores attract an amazing amount of large predators, most notably lion and hyena. Now, wild dog, lion and hyena do not do so well together. So what happens is the wild dog go into areas where they are not found. So the lion dominate these grasslands that you're looking at right now, and it's because of that mostly we see lion and hyena here. On the other side of those hills and into the forested woodlands beyond is where the wild dogs are. Now, if you come over to this side, if you swing over to where I am now, you'll see that we are patrolling the edge of a forest this morning, and we're doing that because I want to see if I can see a leopard. I haven't seen a leopard in the Mara Triangle just yet, and I've been coming here since about January this year. I've heard one, but I haven't seen one. I've seen a lot of lions, seen a lot of hyena, but have seen no leopard. And that is because of exactly the same reason that the wild dog are not here. The grasslands support an amazing amount of large herbivores. The large herbivores attract large predators, lion and hyena. And so what they do is they exclude the smaller predators, most notably the predators that can move and have the intelligence to move, the wild dog and the leopard. And leopard, they like these forested areas, and not only on the Mara River, but also these forests that peel off of the hills and the escarpment. And this is where we are probably going to be seeing leopard in the future, except for the really big toms who will come up off the escarpment, don't mind doing battle with the hyena. You can see there that the slopes of the Ulilolo escarpment are quite heavily wooded. Nice thick forests. I am absolutely dying to get on foot and into these forests. I want to see what they are like, what birds you're hearing inside there, what animals are making their pathways in there. I have no doubt I'm going to be terrified for the first couple of years. And Andy, you just excuse me not finishing my train of thought over there, because it was just I was busy listening to Rebecca asking me your question, and I just had such a moment here. No, I haven't, is the answer to the question, and for everyone else out there, I haven't found any large old trees to hug out here. I took Blake, to my son, to a very old tree just adjacent to the camp the other day. It seemed to be an olive. I haven't really identified it just yet, and he gave it a big hug, but I haven't done it yet. And thanks for reminding me to do so. I need to find myself an old tree and go give it a hug. Absolutely. But back to the plan for today. So I'd like to fringe this forest. This forest extends quite deep into the Mara, onto the alluvial floodplain of the Mara River, and almost touches the river. And what I'm going to try and do before the end of the show is make our way down the edge of this forest. You can see it stretching out there all the way down into the valley, and we're going to see how far we get before the end of the show. And hopefully I can show you a leopard. I'd like to see a leopard today. Although, to be honest with you, my name would have to be Brent Leo Smith to actually get it right. Rebecca, you're just going to have to repeat that question from David if you don't mind. The communication just broke up a little bit. David, you've asked a nice question again. I presume you asked the same question. It's the same David that asked the question a little bit earlier about the why do the animals not kill the predators. David, the forests do not extend into the grasslands off of the slopes quite simply because of people. The Maasai people in this area have been terraforming, have been forming the environment using predominantly fire for thousands upon thousands of years. And it's because the Maasai stock and store their wealth in cattle. Cattle eat grass, and cattle do not get good grass inside the forests. So the Maasai have been burning tracts of land and have been in harmony with these lands for thousands of years. And sometimes the forests grow up into these areas. In the 1980s, this entire area was just covered in forest. At other times, the grass takes over and the Maasai bring their cows into these areas, not quite the reserves anymore, but into these areas, moving them on. They're very nomadic, these herds, and so when drought happens here, or when there's particularly abundant rains in another area of Maasai land, the Maasai move their cattle out, and it gives the trees time to form here again. It's just a wonderful ecosystem that is people dependent rather than people independent. And we're just learning so much about it on a day-to-day and a month-to-month basis, at how deep the roots of the Maasai people really extend into this area. Not forgetting, of course, that in South Africa's wilderness areas, people have been excluded, and for sometimes more than 100 years. Places like the Kruger National Park, people have been excluded from the park's ecology, for lack of a better word, grassroots ecology, on a non-scientific base, right? For more than a century. Whereas here, people are still very much part of these reserves. As to judge which one is better and which one isn't, I do not know enough about both to actually judge that. I think both have their merits and both have their demerits. But quite simply, David, to answer your question, it's about people and fire in this particular area. And on that point, David, I've given some more thought to your question about why the zebra don't eat the hyena or any other predator, for that matter of fact. And I'm going to use I'm going to use fish as an example. I tried to do it with insects a bit earlier and I couldn't get it right, but fish work for me. It's the reason why tuna or sardines don't completely overwhelm sharks and dolphins, even though they number in them millions more, weigh thousands of times more, and could quite easily just overwhelm these predators. They just don't, for some reason. You can see a shark swim through a shoal of sardines, quite easily gobbling up as many as what they can, and the rest of the shoal just tries to get around it, and all they really need to do is solidify and clog up the shark's gills, and they'd kill all the sharks there. But they just don't. It's just the way of things out here. The zebra will never eat the lion, and the lion will never eat the grass. And it's, I suppose, just at a you call it trophic levels, but I don't think that really explains it all. Anyway, before I start yabbering, as I have a habit of doing, why don't we go over to Tristan, who's got some tracks to show you.
Well, I do indeed. It is a leopard mystery, and I feel a bit like Ali did the other day, because there's just leopard tracks everywhere. So Hosanna, unfortunately, has crossed south. I found his tracks going south, quite fresh tracks, in fact, over most of the vehicles. And on Gari Main, being such a busy road, that means he must have crossed during the course of this morning. But what we do have, which is really quite amazing and really nice, is that we're going to be able to compare track sizes here for you quickly, which is very cool. In this section here, you can see the road has been completely dragged with tires. I was talking about it earlier, and it means that the road was completely clean yesterday, but there are lots of little leopard footprints all over the place. And so what we've got is we've got an adult female, we've got a younger cub, and we've got a male leopard, and I'm going to measure all of the tracks, and then I'm going to show you what they look like. So we'll start off with our male leopard, which is probably Hosanna's tracks from yesterday. These are not very fresh, but where they came in yesterday. Now the tracks are just over here, and so we can see that it's quite a sort of large, bulky track, quite wide and very rounded, which is very typical of a male track. And so I'm going to just take my grass and do a sort of size comparison of what this track looks like in comparison to the female track, which I'll show you shortly. So we just break it there and we keep those with us. Now the little cub track that I was talking about, so I'm pretty sure this must be Shadow's cub, is over here. So you can see there's two little footprints in that area, and one in front and then the one at the back, and this is the little front foot and this is the back foot. So this little cub was actually running to try and keep up with its mom, I'm pretty sure, because the back foot is quite far in front of the front foot, which means that the little cub was moving quite quickly. So we'll just take a little grass sort of segment of this as well, so that I can show you guys just how small this little track is in comparison to Hosanna and then the mom, Shadow. Alright, so let's put those together so that we don't get that wrong. And then over here is mom's track over there. So that's where Shadow's track is. Again, back foot, front foot, her moving quite fast. So I'll break a little bit of grass for that, and then I'm going to come closer and be able to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I'm running out of hands to actually be able to hold all of this. But there we go. Okay, Seb, are you going to be able to see here? Well, this grass stalk is not very good, but... Okay, so... Please excuse my half-broken grass. I may have broken the cub's one a little bit on the big side, but... There we go. Okay, so this one, oh no, wind. This is the problem with grass, is that wind gets involved and, well, it ruins it all. Now, oh no, this is not working, Seb. No. Okay, it's fine. What we'll do is we'll just do one by one, and then that hopefully will stay. Alright, so Hosanna's track, you can see, very, very, very wide, and unfortunately I broke the grass a little bit, and long, and almost identical in terms of length and width, which causes that very circular shape that you get there. So quite a big track that you'll see from Hosanna already. Like I was saying, he's got quite big paw prints. Now, the little cub track, unfortunately, like I say, I broke the grass a little bit too big, and the actual breaking point was supposed to be here, but there we go, now it's broke. Alright, so that's the little cub's track. So you can see in comparison to Hosanna's how much smaller it is already. Just at the back, much, much smaller and a lot shorter. And then Shadow's track, oh, this grass is having a bad field day. Okay, hopefully the wind won't do anything, and we'll be able to show you. And there we go, there's Shadow's track. So you can see male track very wide and equally as long, female track much shorter at the back and longer, and gets a more oval shape, much more rounded shape, and then the little cub in between. So there we go, that's quite a nice sort of comparison between the three different tracks themselves. Right, well, the problem is all of these tracks all go south, which is not really ideal, but I'm going to just quickly check if maybe the tracks don't turn down the fire break and carry on towards sort of Zoe's side, and hopefully they will carry on that way, and then I can be able to follow up and see where Shadow went. Now, Shongile's tracks carried on sort of more to the east, and I didn't find them crossing south, so I'm hoping that potentially Shongile is somewhere in this area still. But it seemed like a leopard party last night, that's for sure. There's females, there's males, there's all kinds of things happening, and well, we know that we had 3 leopards last night, and it seems like Shadow and Cub must have been on the property as well as Tundi and Tumba, so it potentially could have been 7 leopards that we saw last night, which is quite crazy when you think about it. But the tracks for this female and Cub seem to just go straight down here, so I'm pretty sure they crossed into Little Gowrie, but I just want to make 100% sure before we move out of this particular area. Mary, you want to know if we know the sex of Shadow's cub? Yes, we do. It's a little female, and so we do know that she indeed has a female cub, but it looks like, I just want to make 100% sure, but it looks like they just go straight over here. So the best way to do that is just to go and pull up next to the Little Gowrie sign. So that's all lion tracks from the other day, and there's tracks for Hosanna, but it looks like they just cut off southwards and down into Little Gowrie. In fact, it's just paw prints everywhere here on the side. It just looks like a multitude of different cats have walked all over the place, and well, it's always a place that they do go in and out of Little Gowrie. So we're going to just try and see if we can't find any other signs for Shongile, since Hassan is south, looks like Shadow and Cub is south, and means that there's only one left to track. And while we do that, let's go all the way back to Stef and see whether or not he's found a tree yet and whether or not he's hugged it.
It's interesting to note how the difference is between the approach of finding a similar animal. We're both looking for leopard, Tristan and I. But it's interesting to note the differences in the approach. Tristan is able to track at Djuma. The substrate in Djuma is very conducive to tracking, and one of the best tracking areas in the world, in actual fact. It's also winter there and very dry, and so it's easy to see the tracks. Here, while it's the dry season, it isn't winter. I've got a jacket on, but it's just a small layer. You'll notice that Tristan is probably covered up, beanie, gloves, jacket, I would assume. And here, tracking is very difficult because the substrate doesn't allow you to see tracks that easily. You can see right here, the sand is very thin and it doesn't hold tracks very well. You need to go to areas that have this white sand, and they're few and far between. For the most part, the sand here is this black, very thick sand that doesn't hold track and doesn't break down into dust at all. And so we've got to rely on a different way here. I've got to think to myself where these cats are most likely going to be and why they would be there, and why would they be there at this time of day, and then try and predict where these animals are going to be. I would assume that the leopard at Djuma, especially if it's those two young cubs, are, well, two sub-adult cubs, I can't call them young cubs anymore, have had a pretty restful evening and were able to move wherever they felt like it. Whereas here, the leopard would have to move between thickets of trees and keeping out of the way of prowling lions and prowling hyena. And I'm hoping that we'll bump into one basically lying in a tree, because I think that their excursions out onto these plains would be limited to the darkness. And I'm hoping to catch one lying up in the tree, whereas I'm sure Tristan's also hoping to see one lying up in the tree, but with a much more systematic approach to how he's looking for them. Find the fresh tracks, the freshest tracks leading into the area, and then using skill, you follow the tracks using intuition as well, I suppose, to a degree, and hopefully it terminates in the animal. I suppose a type of convergent evolution is the word. Juniper, you've asked me if we have any flowers in this part of the Mara. We do, actually. It's not really the season for flowers right now. That comes, I suppose, when we get our next rains here in about November, December time. Right now the grass has flowered and has made some seeds and has dropped their seeds. And the flowering plants, apart from a few of the guaris that I've seen here, as well as a few of the jasmines, are not really flowering right now. That's our sister lodge, Angama Mara, one of their guides. There's such a friendly group of people out here. We all sort of help one another. It's quite nice that it's an open system. And by that I mean that there's no exclusive areas for everybody to drive. This is very similar to the Kruger National Park. Outside of the private reserves like Djuma, is that anyone can drive anywhere really, as long as you've paid your park fee and you adhere to the rules and regulations here. And what it does do is it gives this nice community feel. All right. Now, I've chosen this road. I don't really know what road this is or where it's going to go. I just assume that it's going to follow this forest, and we'll see what we can do. Tristan says that he's asked if he could find a tree for me to hug, or if he could find some flowers on his side. He's welcome, actually. I'm not allowed to climb out of my car here without an Ascari, whereas he can. So hopefully you can find a nice tree to hug. Anyway, you're going all the way back to South Africa and see what Tristan's up to.
Well, I'm pretty sure I can find one of many trees to hug, Stef. There are lots around here, marulas and, well, torchwoods and all kinds of other big trees, so at some stage we'll get there. I'm still trying just to see if I can't find these leopards that are seemingly having a massive party last night. It seems like everybody was involved and we were all invited except us, Stef, and, well, not Stef, Seb. Sorry, Seb. We were definitely not invited this morning, and they seem to have, most of them, gone south. Now, I asked the guys in the south, has anybody found any sign for these leopards? And they replied to me was that no, they haven't even seen any tracks, which is quite astounding given that a lot of them have driven over those said footprints that go straight south. So hopefully they'll find out what's going on the side of the boundary, and it seems, like I say, like Little Gowrie and Hofmann's is where they would probably be. As for Shongile, still no sign of where her tracks go. I'm going to just try and check back towards Treehouse Dam. Maybe she hung around there last night and after Osana left decided just to kind of go back into that area. If there's nothing there, well, the other place she likes to hang around is sort of closer towards Twin Dam. So I'm going to just scratch and try and see if I can't find any sign of her. But I wonder, Yuri, I think I got that. You want to know if there's any news on Sindile. Now, not that I've heard for probably, I would say, over a month now. There was reports that he was seen on Elephant Plains, but that was about, I would say, about 6 weeks ago that those reports were sort of spoken about, and since then he's kind of not been heard of at all. I know he was seen down at Sabi at one point as well, but since those sort of days, haven't heard too much, unfortunately. And I would imagine that he's probably just distributed somewhere and we don't actually know just yet where. He might have gone just onto the fringes of the Sabi Sands in the Kruger, might have gone south if he was at Sabi, he might have gone south over the Sabi River into the Kruger Park. Very difficult to know exactly where he is, and unfortunately I haven't heard a single word about him since that time he was seen around Sabi and Elephant Plains in that 1 week, which, like I say, is quite a while ago. It's about 6 weeks actually. It's more than a month since that sighting. So you never know with him, though. He can also just show up anywhere at any time, and I really hope that he does settle somewhere where at least there's sort of regular updates that come about him, because it's a pretty amazing story when you think about it, how this leopard was able to kind of go away and come back. And even though he was sort of quarantined, that instinct and the ability to be able to work out, well, you know, I can still be able to find food and survive in the wild is pretty unbelievable. You know, he was taken out of this wild system for a few months, and the fact that he could come back and start to sort of settle in straight away and really make a home for himself is quite something. So it's good that he's out there, and hopefully he will be just fine, and we'll see one day this big male roaming one of these areas and it will be him and he'll have done just fine. So that's what I'm hoping, and we'll see. Only time will be able to tell as to whether that will be the case. It's so interesting just to see where these leopards walked, because yesterday when we were doing tracking team, I drove this area first yesterday afternoon, no sign of them. Then they walked on top of my tracks. Now I see this morning that they were up and down in this area again, so I think last night they must have just moved around and kind of taken it very easy around this dam, and then decided to move on probably early hours of this morning. But no sign that I can see. I'm going to just quickly go down to where Husana was and just have a little look there. Amazing how they all arrive at once and then all disappear at once. You would think of the 3 leopards that we saw yesterday, one of them was going to stick around, but it seems like, alas, they all just want to be on their own this morning and do their own thing, which is, I suppose, fine. They at least gave us some sort of a view of themselves yesterday. Now this is where little Hosanna was lying last night, was left in this area, and I know he likes to lie in these bushes as well as Shongile. They like to lie just on the edge of the dam here, right in the thicket, and it means that sometimes you drive past the dam and you're like, oh, there's no leopard here, and meanwhile they're actually lying right here. So it's always worth just coming around this back edge and just checking in these little guarri thickets that we have here in case one of them is sign. Well, one of those mornings, Seb. Can't have them always so productive as what we had yesterday afternoon and yesterday morning, and so not too bad, and well, still nice just to be out and about and absorbing the beautiful sort of sunlight and morning light. We do have a blacksmith lapwing which is bounding around, so that's a sign of life, the first sign of life we've had in a long time. It's been a few days since he was seen, and so hopefully he'll show up somewhere around. Maybe Twin Dams is a good place to go look for him, or he could have gone southwards towards Hofmann's Dam. Right, well, we're going to just carry on driving and trying to see if we can't find, well, anything, because it's been quite quiet. And while we do that, let's go back to Stef, who is also driving around and also just looking around for anything that has spots.
It's quite unfortunate for you that you have Tristan on that side and me on this side with some with hosting the game drive today, because I have the worst luck with large mammals on the face of the planet. I think only second to me, or probably surpassing me, is Mr. James Henry, and it seems like Tristan and James and I share exactly the same thing. We have a repellent function or repellent effect on large herbivores because we're in the Masai Mara in the middle of the migration, and as you can see from the teeming loads of wildlife that we have around us over here, that for some reason they've all run away. What we have done as well is we've run out of some trees, and I'm going to stick to my game plan about finding a leopard today in an area where leopard are not really seen that much, so you might just have to hold on to your seats for the next hour or so just while we gear ourselves up. I'm sure Tristan's luck is going to improve on that side, as will mine. We're heading into the trees, and then I'm going to bend slowly north from here, and there's a big swamp slowly north from here with some better grass and better trees. In actual fact, here's a road right here leading to that swamp. Sierra, you've just asked me what my favorite sighting so far has been in Kenya. Sierra, my favorite sighting so far, believe it or not, has been a fruit fly. They have the most unbelievable iridescent eyes. They are like rainbows. I think I have a photograph of one. I'll try and find one on my phone. When you come back to me after visiting Tristan, I'll see if I can access it for you. And then secondly was a giant wood orb spider. Giant wood orb spider. Blake actually found it in a tree close to where we were staying for a few weeks while we were building the camp, and was feeding it ants every day. And I've never seen it before, but a wood orb builds an orb web on the boughs of a tree, of a tall tree, and where the bough comes out, where a branch comes out between. So let me do that. If this was the stem of the tree, the wood orb builds its home between the branch and the stem, and then always in a hole in the tree, and will make a tunnel of silk and live inside this tunnel. And Blake fed it ants, and what was amazing about it is I never realized that when a spider is really, really well fed, and it makes perfect sense, that they defecate more and urinate more. I've never seen the signs of this particular thing, and this spider defecated and urinated outside this web, outside of this tunnel that it lived in. and it was just a really cool thing to see. Anyway, those are my two best sightings here so far that I can think of right now. Alright, there is the swamp. It's not much of a swamp this time of the year because it hasn't rained a lot here, but that much green area there is where I'm hoping to find you some animals. Sassy B, thank you very much. You've said it's so nice that I like the little things. I do like the little things, Sassy B. I do like leopard and lion and hyena and elephant and all that rest of the stuff. I get just as excited as everyone else. I just find them a bit boring, to be honest with you. If you take everything up to the same scale, so you bring up a fruit fly to the same scale as an elephant or a giraffe or a leopard or anything like that, they are far, far more interesting. And I just enjoy that part of it all. So in my mind, they're all the same size and they're all the same. And I don't know, just jumping spiders and orb spiders and fruit flies and giant hornets with harpoons in their backsides, you know, they all hold a lot more fascination for me than just a lion with some claws. Alright, I'm going to find the fruit fly for you on my phone, and we're going to send you over to Tristan, who's I'm sure got an interesting story to tell you.
Well, I suppose I have many interesting stories, Steph, but none that relates to what we've been getting up to now this morning, because, well, it's still very quiet. There's tracks of Shongile everywhere. She has walked all over the place, so all around Treehouse Dam, all over this area where she was seen last night. You can see where she came down the mound and onto the road and walked around there for a while. So she seemed to have been a busy girl last night, and it seems as though her tracks just carry on southwards and head towards sort of the fire break. And well, I'm going to try and just check one last time at Twin Dams and see maybe she's just lying somewhere there and we missed her a little bit earlier. But I have to laugh at Stef because he's so funny with these kind of things, and it's so true of his nature that the bigger animals, while he really enjoys them, are not really, he's not fussed by them. For his favorite sighting to be of fruit flies, when so much epicness has been happening around the Mara, is, well, just exactly how Stef is. And I really, to be honest, it's a fantastic trait to have, because we do get caught up in these bigger animals, and we get caught up in the sort of hype of trying to track and find larger mammals all the time, and to be sort of take a step back and to actually be so appreciative of the smaller things is a very, 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 very interesting way of looking at things. And, well, like I say, we need, I think, more people like that in the world. If more people cared about the smaller things, it would be definitely a better place. So it's really an amazing thing that Stef, and the ability that he has to sort of pull inspiration from all the smaller creatures, is a sort of testament to his amazing knowledge as a guide, and as well as his sort of demeanor as a person, and that he tries to find the interesting in everything rather than just the bigger stuff. So it's really good to have somebody like that, and definitely all benefit from it, because not only does he find these things, but he also identifies them and looks at them and helps us all to be able to actually, you know, work out what's going on and to find out a little bit more about these sort of things. So it's very funny in one regard, but very cool in another, that's how he is. Right, Shongile, I don't know where you've gone, girl. You have become a disappearing leopardess, and you have grown wings and flown somewhere, because, well, your tracks don't come out here, and the last track I had was on the fire break, and like I said, and I don't know from there where she's gone, because I didn't find any tracks crossing southwards. There's no tracks crossing Weaver's Nest, there's no tracks crossing the fire break, so she must have just been somewhere in this area. Maybe she's just lying down in some long grass and we're just driving right past her. At the end of the day, if these leopards are not lying quite close to the road, it's almost impossible to see them in this grass at the moment. It is the perfect color for leopards just to melt away and disappear, and unless they pop their heads up, you're going to have no chance of being able to see them. So, well, we're just going to try and persevere and see. Maybe we get lucky and one does pop up somewhere. So, Shamson, you're wondering when leopards move to other areas like to the south and varying other parts of the Sabi sands, how we get updates on them and how we know what's going on. Well, Shamson, the best way is normally just to speak to the other rangers, and so luckily I'm friends with quite a few of the guys that work around us, and I get to spend a bit of sort of time to be able to chat to them and try and find out from them where exactly they go and what they get up to and what their sort of updates have been. And then of course, well, social media is such a easy place to find information on many of our cats as they move around, because, well, the lodges post photos of these cats as and when they see them, and that helps us to be able to find those situations. So that's how we do it. It's just basically rely on word of mouth from others, as well as then social media, which helps us to be able to find some information out about what's been going on. Now, while you hopefully try and use the bush telegraph, as we call it, and try and talk to some of the other guys and see if maybe I can't get some other updates as to what's been going on, because I haven't really been paying attention to the radio for the last 45 minutes. Maybe, just maybe, there's a surprise around the corner for us somewhere if we turn our radio on. And in the meantime, let's see how Stef is going, the big boss, and whether the bush telegraph has spoken to him and he's having any luck with any other sightings.
It's just not as sophisticated here. The guides here all just tend to use WhatsApp and their cell phones, really, because there's coverage. There's so much coverage across here. I found that fruit fly for you. Let me see if I can put it in the shade so that you can see it, which is going to be best for you, Senzo. So there's my photograph of... You've also got my face in there. Excuse my bald head shining in the picture. So there you can see the very iridescent rainbow-colored eyes of the fruit fly that occurs here in East Africa. And isn't that just incredible? Now that is because there's a very thick film of keratin over each individual compound eye, giving this fruit fly almost a 360-degree view without having to look around. So its whole head is basically an eye. If you could imagine taking a sphere and plugging a bunch of GoPro cameras onto the sphere without any ability to zoom in, that would basically be what a fly's head is like. It's just hundreds, possibly even thousands of GoPros all over the head, which allow a wide angle of view, not enabling the fly to focus on any particular thing in any distance. It's got a set focal length, very wide angle, very similar to how you're looking at me now, where I'm a little bit in focus, but as is the glass and as is the grass, but as soon as you lift it up, you get out of focus on that area. That is very similar to how a fly's eye works. Only 360 degrees. Can you imagine that? Now, I've also found some baboons here as well, which we can have a look at. Well, have a look there. Tess, you've asked me if we have lightning bugs in the Mara or Djuma. I can't say I've ever heard of a lightning bug, Tess, at all in my life. You're welcome, please, if you don't mind, to just give me another common name or describe it a little bit better, and I possibly have seen it, what a lightning bug is. You're welcome to use the hashtag Safari Live, or use the hashtag Safari Live and send through a description just to help me out a little bit. I've never heard of the common name lightning bug on this site. And what you're looking at there is the olive baboon. Opposed to the Chakma baboon, which you find at Djuma, which Tristan would be hearing most mornings and evenings, this olive baboon lives in fairly large troops, much larger than what the Chakma baboon lives in, and is also a bit hairier, but they're about the same weight and size. Let's look at that, very arrogant. I love these guys. They're omnivorous, eating virtually anything, including carrion. They will also fish, dig out mussels in drying up pans, eat fruits. They will hunt meat from time to time, in particular newborn calves of bushbuck, impala, nyala, almost anything. I don't know what this baboon is busy eating there. Oh, hang on. That is a baby baboon being either groomed. It's holding its baby upside down. Before I burst out laughing too much, let's just make sure that that baby is not deceased. Quite often, there's a very, very strong bond between mom and baby baboon, and baby baboons can die and still be carried around by their mothers for quite some time. So before I actually find the comedic value in a baby baboon being groomed upside down, which is what it looks like from here, let's just make sure that that baboon... No, I saw a leg twitch there. Are you seeing it with me? Or is it just my imagination? Legs are moving. There we go, there we go. Okay, well, now it is a very funny sighting. Can you imagine? I've never in my life seen a baboon grooming its child hanging upside down. Classic. Oh, these guys are funny. I think it's because there's so many similarities in behavior. I mean, I can imagine holding my child upside down and grooming them, trying to clean Blake's feet. Not going to be an easiest thing. Now, they are hairier, of course, and they do have a reputation, these olive baboons, for attacking lion and leopard and hyena, for that matter of fact. They've got a fearsome reputation for not tolerating predators, but they are restricted to these treed drainage lines and the slopes of the mountains, so that they can get into the trees. They do obviously sleep in the trees at night, same as the Chakma baboon. And are not completely plains-based, like a monkey species which we get here as well. I don't know if we get it in the Mara Triangle, but Patas monkeys, P-A-T-A-S monkeys, do venture out onto the plains and are actually, in actual fact, the fastest running monkey species on the planet, as far as I know, the Patas monkeys. We are getting into some large herbivore territory. I just want you to scan as we come left away from this mother baboon still holding her baby upside down, just have a look at the edge of this swamp and you'll start seeing all these animals starting to pop out. Now, we'll go back to these baboons in a second once we've scanned the swamp, but I can answer Juniper's question about whether baboons in this area use tools or not. Juniper, I'm going to say no to baboons using tools, barring smashing what they've got in their hands on rocks or on branches. So I would say it's very rudimentary, the way that these baboons use tools. They would take something and smash it on the ground quite easily, but they won't pick something up and use it as a tool, specifically preferencing one shape over another. That is restricted to some chimpanzees, orangutans, bonobo apes, gorillas, and all of them, except with the exception of the orangutan, all of those monkeys do occur, all of those great apes do occur not too far away from here. We are in Central Africa, and in the more forested areas of Central Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, the Congo, where you do find chimpanzees, bonobos, and gorillas, you do find the most unbelievable usage of tools, specific tools that are pre-selected, that are shaped for a specific purpose and a specific purpose only. And it's just, there's some incredible studies that have been done on these monkeys' abilities to use tools. But have I ever seen baboons use tools? No, I haven't, apart from smashing things. So taking the food item and smashing it on the floor. But that is not uncommon in a lot of things. Mongoose do that as well. Civets do that as well. Otters will do that as well. So it's not an uncommon thing to take a food item and smash it, rather than pre-selecting a tool and taking it to the food source. All right, let's carry on through here. Tess, thank you for your description on the lightning bug, Tess. You said it's otherwise known as a firefly. And in that regard, Tess, yes, we have seen some fireflies here, absolutely. There are lots of fireflies here at the moment. Let me just try and get up here. Tess, in answering your question, I may have compromised my position to be able to get out of this drainage line easier. There we go. Oopsie. Jumping out of here. Out of practice driving cars. This is probably only the second or third time that I've done a vehicle-based safari in the last couple of years, in actual fact. I'm finding my feet, learning these machines again. Alright, we're going to make our way over to the other side of the swamp where most of the animals look like they are congregating, and when we get there we'll call you back and see what's going on. In the meantime, you're off to Tristan and his hunt for those leopards.
I'm not Tristan, but yes, we've dropped off George, and those guys do an incredible job sitting with us all night, and we're just going to say have a quick little chat while we go down this very bumpy road, and I'll show you where we're heading to go have a nap before heading back to camp. So, right on the border of Tanzania is a beautiful, beautiful safari camp. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's called Sala's, and that's where we stay when we're out this side. A little bit to the right, Dave. Now, we're just going to use that as an example. There's a hill there. The bigger hill a little bit further out is called Kilolobet Hill, which is Roan Hill. And that little hill to the left of the big hill, Sala's, is nestled in the Sand River below that hill. And then you can see the Kikarok River, which is the one in front of us there. But if we go a little bit to the left, and about center screen now, I think, Dave. There we go. On the junction, or on the confluence of the Kikarok and Sand Rivers, is Sala's. That's where we're heading to have our nap. We are going to dip down into this river valley for a bit, so we're not going to have any signal. Hi, Kimberly. Kimberly's wondering, do animals ever come into any of the camps? Indeed, they do. Actually, the first time we stayed at Sala's, in camp, there was a mating pair of lions. The second time we were there, while we were having afternoon tea, there were lions in the riverbed, and hyenas almost every night, elephants quite frequently, and Angama as well, hyenas, ellies, buffalo. So giraffe, zebra, eland, yes, duck. So all the animals do come into camp quite frequently, and it is quite special. It's one of the wonderful things about living in the bush, being able to share the area you live in with these wondrous wild creatures. Okay, not much happening out on this section here. Most of the wildebeest are in this area over there. Now the only thing Dave and I are going to go look for is our pillows. So we will see you probably tomorrow at some point. So from Dangerous Dave and myself, have a wonderful rest of your drive with Tristan and Stef. Bye!
Well, I think a well-deserved pillow time is in order, Leo Smith, so go visit Club Duvet and go and have a good rest, because, well, if you've been out all night, it's about time that you found yourself a pillow and have a little snooze. Now, if there's anybody that can do night shift, it is Brent. Seb, you'll be pretty good at night shift too. You are a bat at heart, I'm pretty sure. Nocturnal creature is what Seb is. Seb loves to stay awake at night, and is difficult for you to get up in the morning, isn't it, Seb?
I've changed, Dad.
You've changed since you became a dad. Yeah, nice.
Appreciate my sleep now.
So since Seb became a dad, he says he appreciates his sleep a lot more. Well, I can imagine, Seb. I can imagine you are far less nocturnal than what you used to be, because back in the day when Seb was a little bit younger, I always used to laugh about how he just never used to sleep at night. It was quite funny to watch. So, and unlike me, of course, I'm completely diurnal. I'm terrible at...
You were never with me on the side, right? Never, eh?
Never. I never was with you, Seb. These were rumors apparently about you being awake. I never witnessed it firsthand because, well, yes, I used to be in bed and taking it very easy and never partaking in any of the shenanigans that used to go on around the northern Sabi sands at that time. It was all other people, Seb. Never. No, I did used to dabble in the odd late evening. Back in the day, there used to be a lot more sort of party central out in the Sabi Sands, and prior to the curfew, everyone used to kind of go and visit each other at the different lodges, and guys used to get home at all kinds of ridiculous hours, and that's all changed really, because now the curfew, and that means that we all have to be at home and kind of in our lodges by 11 o'clock at night, and that's put an end to a lot of the shenanigans that used to go on. And probably a good thing too.
It's a good thing, yes, I agree.
So, Kimberly, you're saying, speaking of nocturnal creatures, what animals come into our camp at night? Well, Kimberly, we have quite a few. We have some hyenas, so Ribbon in particular is quite naughty. She comes in quite often, and I think this morning there was a hyena seen at the camp early this morning at around sort of 5:30. Megan said she heard a rustling outside her window, and Connor told me that he saw the culprit running past. So hyenas are a regular feature inside the camp. Then we get a genet called Genevieve. So Genevieve the genet comes in every now and then and spends time around the camp and sort of scopes everybody out. So that's around quite regularly. Then we have the regular baboon troop that comes through, and they cause havoc and go plonking along on top of the roofs and bouncing and making an absolute racket. So they're around, but not so much at night, but I suppose in the early hours of the morning. Other animals at night, what else do we get? So, the odd leopard every now and then. We had a leopard the other day that's walked through. We didn't know who it was, but walked right outside and past the cars. And then every now and then we get the big Birmingham boys that also visit camp at night. So it's quite a busy place for the nocturnals. We get quite a few of them moving through there, odd civets as well. And so it really is quite cool to I would actually like to put up a camera trap at some point just in the camp to see what we can get. We might also find some interesting staff behavior too, which we shan't get into. But while we do that, let's go across to Stef, who is hopefully having a wonderful morning driving around and enjoying his time in the car. I know he's a bushwalk fanatic, but well, it's good to get him into the vehicle every now and then and get him out of the office and out of his diary and make him get and appreciate some of the natural landscape.
You need to be. But we now got to the terminal end of this swamp, and just have a look at the vast collection of animals. There's a zebra. They're lying down, and as we sort of pan right, there's a waterbuck, and most of the waterbuck. This is the largest collection of waterbuck that I've seen. Here we've got a topi. These are, of course, the Defasa waterbuck, not the common waterbuck, although the common waterbuck is restricted only to South Africa, where Tristan is driving around there now, whereas the Defasa waterbuck is a much higher distribution range, or much wider distribution range. So there you have some more zebra and some more topi. Lots and lots of them just feeding on the grass adjacent to the swamp. A great white egret and some herons. And in the distance, there's some elephant. It always seems like elephant are the backdrop to every picture. Alex Voss was commenting on it yesterday. He wanted to know why we never see elephant close by, why they're always in the background. I don't really know the answer to that question. It's a good one, but it's a very good observation. As we come around some more, the zebra finally give way to herds of topi. So as we come around some more and more, you'll start to see the zebras thin out. And I think what happens is the grass gets a bit shorter, and that is the topi's preferred habitat. And there you can see the zebra are no more, and then all the topi are there. And there's one lone waterbuck. Lots and lots of topi lying down with their manna. And then as we come down even more across, the topi give way to buffalo. A bit of dead space there. Carry on going, carry on going. And there's a whole bunch of buffalo. So there's all a bunch of buffalo lying down there. Probably a herd of bachelors, a bull buffalo. All buddies with one another, and they are not part of a herd. They would have spent the night there. And it was really cold last night, so I think that they're probably just enjoying the sun and warming up before getting on eating for the day. Because it's the dry season here, doesn't necessarily mean they won't be able to find enough grass. And so unlike the dry season or winter where Tristan's driving around this morning, where buffalo have to eat most of the day to get enough nutrition, here they can warm up. They have the luxury of being able to warm up and then go feed as well. Now, off to my right, which is also quite special, which I didn't realize until now, this little depression that we have over here is an oxbow lake, and from the Mara. Now, Mita, looking at the Mara River here, this is an ancient bed of the Mara River. This is an oxbow lake of the Mara River, and this will slowly get filled up with sediment, and eventually trees will grow on the very fertile soil, and you won't even recognize this for being an old bed of the Mara. But this bed has been seeing the crossings of zebra and wildebeest for thousands of years. Can you imagine? Crocodiles used to live in here, and hippos, and everything. Now, coming back to your question there, Mita, who's only 8 years old. You wanted to know if when the animals get to this Mara River, do they cross and then recross and cross and recross again, or do they just cross once and then carry on with their journey? They cross and recross and cross and recross again, and no one really knows why or for what reason. It could be food, it could be predator pressure, it could be because there's feeding pressure behind them. It could be just because they feel like going to the other side of the river and want to brave the dangers of the crocodiles and the lions on the banks of the river. It's really difficult to say. Personally, I witnessed a crossing on Sunday, and I watched these animals stream out of a grassland for no apparent reason. They weren't being chased by anything. Swam up on the banks of the river, drink some water. They came primarily to drink some water. Some swam across to join others on the other side. Others didn't and turned around and went back. And one or two got eaten by crocodiles. And it was just for me, an introduction into this Mara ecosystem and this phenomenon that is the Mara River. For years, I grew up as a little boy watching documentaries from as old as you were and younger, Mita, and thought that the river, the animals got to this barrier and then they crossed the barrier, and once they were through, that was their journey done, and they carried on into the grasslands. But that's not the truth. They live in this place called the Masai Mara. They come here because the vegetation is better in the dry season here than in the Serengeti, which dries out. And this river meanders through the middle of this particular game reserve. And for whatever reason, we haven't decided just yet, they cross this river and recross again and cross and recross again for the entire dry season, basically. And as the season comes to an end, so from now until 3 months from now, 4 months from now, they will live here, and then they slowly start to meander back to the Serengeti because it's more volcanic and less alluvium there. And when the Serengeti starts to get some rain, the grass that comes up there is of a better quality, and all the animals that migrate go there. It's not all the animals, and that was also another misconception of mine. It's only the migrating animals. There is a vast number of animals that do not move and stay just here. All these animals that we've been seeing right now are all sedentary. They do not move anywhere. All the animals that we saw around this particular swamp, they live here and they live here all year round. It's just the ones that move which will move on. Right. Now we're going to carry on. I'm going to see if this road takes me around the swamp or we have to go all the way back, because I don't really know. I know where I am, of course, but I don't know what road. It's the first time I've ever driven on it. Wouldn't even know what its name is. Oopsie. In the meantime, we're going to send you over to Tristan back in South Africa.
Well, Stef, I suppose if anybody out in the world could survive being lost in the wilds of Africa, it would be you with all your survival techniques. So wherever that road leads, I'm sure you'll be just fine, as long as you don't cross into Tanzania, of course, which would cause a bit of a dilemma and may or may not get you into a little bit of trouble if you are an illegal immigrant and border crosser. So hopefully he'll stay away from the boundary and Stef will be fine, but in terms of survival, I'm pretty sure he'll be okay. Now, we finally found something to point a camera at that is not a bunch of foliage being blown around in the wind, and not a leopard track either. So this is a beautiful big herd of male impalas, and it's a large group of bachelors. Generally the bachelor herds are quite small, but this is a particularly large one, and I think it's because of the wind that's blowing today. A lot of them have come out to this more open section just to sort of be able to see what's going on and to be able to pick up any predators that might be around. With the fact that the wind is blowing inside those thickets, it will be very noisy, and it won't be easy to actually pick up through hearing what's going on. And so a lot of them have then congregated in this little open clearing, and that's why the herd is so big. You'll find that if it was a calm day, they would have probably split out a lot more, and we'd end up with a much smaller group. And you can see they're almost in unison as they chew their breakfast, and they are looking so good. Generally, male impalas at this time of the year are not in the greatest condition after the rut, but these boys are all looking fantastic. There's no scarring on their necks. They're all got beautiful clean coats, and so these guys must have been the ones that sort of mated early on and have now spent the last few weeks just feeding and getting stronger again after that prolonged period of activity. And quite cool to see the two of them sort of standing in exactly the same way. And there's ever-present oxpeckers just arrived. So red-billed oxpecker. Oh, and it's giving a massage. Did you see that? It was kind of bouncing its feet all over the back of the impala. Maybe that's the secret as to why the impalas are so tolerant of oxpeckers, is that not only do they get cleaned, but, well, they get a little massage too while they're there. But you can see this is how impalas will often rest. So there's this theory behind the fact that when impalas ruminate, or any ruminating animal, it allows their brain to actually go into a state of sort of sleep, if you want to call it that. So they're in a more relaxed state, and they're able to sort of close eyes, but they're not actually sleeping properly. And while they're ruminating, their brain gets some rest, and that then allows them to sleep, have a much shorter deep sleep. And we know with things like giraffe, they only sleep about 20 minutes in a 24-hour period, and so it means that the prey animals are able to ruminate and their brain rests while they're actually just standing there. The other interesting thing with impalas is that, funny enough, is that they don't live in fear. So there's a study that shows that their brain just doesn't process fear like we do, and so even though they have to spend, oh, that doesn't look pleasant. Seb, aren't you glad you're not an oxpecker for breakfast this morning? Because that area of eating breakfast would not be the best place to be, I would imagine. And now this poor impala, not only has it had the oxpecker trying to go towards its backside, that said oxpecker is now trying to bounce around on its face, and I'm not sure that's very hygienic. Oxpecker, go and get a bath before you go onto the face of the impala. So, Lara Moy, you say a karate chop massage is what these oxpeckers have been giving, and indeed I don't think it carries much force and probably doesn't really affect the impalas in any way, but it was just funny to watch it kind of being slapped by the feet of an oxpecker. Maybe it tickles a little bit, and maybe it feels quite good, and that's why the impalas tolerate it. But back to their sort of fear components, like I was saying, they don't really sort of have the same fear as what we do. And even though at night there'll be this sort of awareness and they'll be very sort of on alert and looking around, they actually don't process fear like we do. So they don't sit here and think, oh, I'm going to be killed at any second. They actually kind of, once they've been chased or if they've seen a predator, their adrenaline levels spike, but after that it comes down quite quickly and they go back to normal fairly fast. It's not like us as people that would see it as a traumatic event and be sort of worried about it for hours and days on end. They can't afford to be like that. So as soon as the sort of threat bypasses, then they just go back to normal, heart rate returns to normal, and they actually go back to feeding quite quickly. So they don't have the same system that we do, and that means that when they are ruminating, they can actually get that brain to sort of shut down a little bit, and rest periods are, even when their eyes are open, they are resting. But look at that male impala. Look at how he's shining in this beautiful light this morning. Just shows you how good a condition they're in. When an impala is so shiny like that, it generally is a good indicator of good health, and I suppose we have come off the summer, and so they would have fed nicely and got a lot of nutrients, and so that's why their coat will be looking so good. Right, well, we're going to carry on and try and see if we can't find some other animals other than our common impalas, and not because we don't like them and anything like that. They are ultimately one of the most beautiful animals here. But I believe Stef is starting to get into a forested area, and well, it sounds like it might be quite pretty, so let's go across to him and see what it looks like.
It's a good thing to give a tree a hug. You know, these guys have been around for thousands upon thousands of years and have seen thousands upon thousands, well, not thousands of thousands upon years, a couple of 100 years each, but you know, the trees in general. Can you imagine the stories that a tree like this has got to tell? Anyway, I'm glad to have shared a moment with that tree. I don't know what it is. Oh, I do know what it is. It's a pepperbark tree. Warthogs ugandensis is what that is. In South Africa, this particular tree never grows larger than a small shrub and is critically endangered. And here they grow to the size of these giants and are fed upon only by giraffe, because they've got the most unbelievably spicy leaf. It tastes like a black peppercorn, but is quite burny, and is utilized in a lot of traditional medicines, a lot of traditional trees. So everything that you're seeing over here, all these stems of trees, these ones here, are all the Warthogs. Fantastic tree that you can go and do some research on. Warthogs, Burgia. Brain not working well this morning. We've managed to find ourselves a track next to this forest. This is the forest that is on the banks of the Mara River. And so all of this over here that you're busy having a look at here is the forested verge of the Mara River. The Mara River lies inside here and will meander across this alluvial plain over the hundreds and thousands of years that it exists in this place. And as we saw from the oxbow just now, that it does move and moves frequently as well. Here we've got an old favorite on the edge of the branch and using it as a perch to hawk insects from. That is the lilac breasted roller. And I say old favorite because they're one of the favorite birds for us to look at and film if we can in Djuma. It was just a bit of a nostalgic moment for me with the bird that I actually know. There's so many new birds out here, it's been a bit overwhelming to try and get on top of everything. All right. James, good morning, James. You've asked me which species of grass tend to grow in the swamp areas. James, unfortunately, I haven't been here long enough yet to actually answer that question for you. I have no idea whatsoever. I know that the predominant grass species on the plains and that the zebra and that the giraffe come and feed on are Aristida and Thermida. So those are the two genus of grasses that is most commonly utilized by the animals here, and it's also the most common grasses, the Aristidas and the Thermidas. But other than that, I'm unfortunately not here. I've been building a camp for the last couple of weeks. I haven't been with my nose in the books. I'm sorry about that, James. Hopefully, as the months and years go by, I can get a bit better at answering that question. Roshni, you've just asked me what is the most challenging aspect of driving through this landscape. Roshni, I think it would be to get out of the sun, to be quite honest. Although we are almost 2 miles up into the sky here from mean sea level, we are on the equator, and the sun, although not hot, is incredibly intense. And by midday, a position like I have here, where the sun is shining brightly on top of my bald head, becomes almost a health hazard. Alright, so we've got something happening over here. I've just been gesticulated by at Senzo, so let's just go and see what that is. So we've got something happening in the grassland there. Something's walking there. That is definitely very predator-like. It's got that smooth gait of a hyena. And that is what could be a warthog. Is it a hyena? Is it a warthog? It's so difficult to say. It's a warthog. There we've got all the impala are now looking in the same direction as well. Okay, so we have definitely got something going on here. So all those impala are looking in the same direction. They're definitely not looking at that warthog. They're looking at something else. So most of the females now have looked somewhere else. It was just something small. There we go, the male looking at us. It was just something small. It may have been something like a serval. They're very common along the edges of these swamplands where they hunt a type of rat called a flay rat. Is their most common food. In this particular area, it'll probably be flay rat and one of the striped field mice would probably be what they're hunting most of. And that very alert posture where the entire herd of impala were focused on an area, and then all of a sudden the females lost interest, is quite common when they see something that is predator-like but is not a lion or a leopard or a hyena or a cheetah for that matter of fact. All right, let's carry on going and see what else we can find. In the meantime, Tristan has got a giraffe to show you.
Well, we finally have found another creature besides our common impalas. Well, but it does not want to be our friend. It's just moved away completely and is now obscured by a million trees. And so it's just this tall being, and you can see just the tip of its head and just the legs that are sitting out. Now, dear watcher, you were hoping to see a giraffe, so there we go. Hopefully that's going to work. Now I'm going to just try go forward a little bit just to see if I can't find a better gap so that we don't just see a small head poking out of a tree. And he was standing so beautifully for us a few minutes ago, and then oh no, there's going to be another tree. Is that alright, Seb?
That's a bit forward.
Bit forward, okay.
But not too much.
But not too much. How's that?
There, fine.
Alright, there we go, Seb. This is, if it's not right, it's on you, because I got directions.
Oh, look at that perfect gap.
Now, there we go, that's better. Much, much better. You can see it's also ruminating much like our impalas, so took a mouthful of leaves, swallowed them, and is now regurgitated. And this giraffe is absolutely beautiful. It is dark, dark, dark in coloration. It's almost black. It's so dark, and particularly when it gets in and under the shade there, it's actually quite difficult to see. And so we almost drove right past it. But look at that. Isn't that a beautiful animal? And you can see those very sort of irregular patterns. It's a little bit different to the giraffe that Stef and Brent have been seeing up in the Mara, slightly different shapes that you'll see up there than what we see with our southern giraffe. And I love watching giraffe when they're feeding like this, because you'll find just now, hopefully, he's going to lift his head a little bit. Now, the wind must just stop blowing and stop blowing a leaf right in front of his head, because that's obscuring things. I'm going to try go forward a little bit for you, Seb, because it seems like that branch is just obscuring things slightly. And I was saying that I really like when they feed, because they lift their head up really high and they kind of tilt their head back, and then you see this long tongue coming out. So hopefully he will feed like that just now and kind of try and feed off the big tree that's above him, and then we'll be able to see that long tongue coming out. Isn't that amazing? And just now we're talking about their sleep patterns and how little sleep they actually get, and I'd imagine Brent and Dave will relate to that after last night, and so hopefully they'll get more than their 20 minutes this morning and be a little bit more sort of rested than what a giraffe is. And the reason why giraffes sleep so little is just because of the fact that there's so many threats around. There's lions that are around, and so they can't afford to be asleep all the time. They need to be able to watch what's happening, and so short bursts of sleep, and the 20 minutes in a 24-hour period means that they kind of get enough rest that the brain is not affected in any way, and yet they're still able to keep themselves safe by watching out for predators. But that is a giraffe in its prime condition. Look at it, it's absolutely beautiful. It's not skinny in any way, big muscular neck, not too many sort of markings on the neck yet. He doesn't have any of the signs of wear and tear. His ears are perfect, and so, well, it's a giraffe in absolute perfect condition. And what are you doing? Look, there we go, there's the long tongue. So David, you say he's got such white ears. Well, that's exactly right, David. The reason why he's got white ears is much like a leopard's white tail or a lion's black tip to his tail. It means that other giraffe in the area can see those white ears contrasting against the dark leaves of a tree, and they can then follow one another around. And so they don't have the marking on their backside, but rather on their ears, because being tall animals, that's an area that others can see. But look how clever this giraffe is. Do you see what it's doing? It sometimes is grabbing a little bit lower down on the branch and actually bending the branch down towards it, and then it's sliding along and using its tongue to pull off the leaves that are on there. Very, very clever indeed. And I've actually never seen a giraffe feed in that way before, where they bend a branch like that and then slowly come down it to be able to then get to those leaves. That was very cool to see. Well done, giraffe. Very clever. You can see also how well they do blend in. You would think such a big animal would stand out, but look at where its head is. Almost impossible to see because of that broken pattern. So, Natalie, you want to know if I've ever seen a giraffe without ossicones? No, I've never seen a giraffe without ossicones. I've seen ones with one, or with broken ones, or ones that have grown in funny ways, but never without ossicones at all. It seems as though they all have them, and it would be very odd to see one without them. It would actually look quite funny, I would imagine, but I've never personally seen without. Like I say, I've seen with one, or with broken ones, or stunted ones, or skew ones, but never ever completely lacking the ossicones on the head. Seb, you ever seen ones without an ossicone? No, I didn't think so either. It's not something that I've ever actually even seen pictures of, or heard recorded, and so maybe in the wonderful world of the interweb we'll be able to find something, but I don't know if it is possible, or if it's even been documented before. But there you go. Again, that camouflage, absolutely amazing. So you see now that the sun's up, that dappled light, a broken pattern, which is what we see on a lot of our animals out here. So these guys, zebra, leopard, broken spotted patterns work really well in dappled light, and means that that animal can camouflage incredibly well, even if you are 5.5 meters tall and very, very large. Now it seems the bug has caught them all, and so we have another victim of the so-called red lollipop in Kenya, and it seems Stef is on it now as well. So not only Brent and Jamie, but we have another red-lipped warrior out in Kenya.
I'm sorry if I've got painted lips. It wasn't my intention. I found a sucker in the car that Jamie left here after an entire night spent hunting with the lions. And that's exactly what Jamie did last night. She sat in this car and she basically hunted with a pride of lions from sunset all the way through to sunrise this morning when I picked the car up. Now, we're still on the banks of the Mara River, actually on the edges of the riverine forest, and we're looking for leopard. That has been our mission the whole morning. I got a feeling that these leopard are hunting things like warthog. Now, there's a sound of warthog that are making their way through the bush to the swamp at the edge there, and I think what these leopard do is they come out of this forest, smash something to eat, and then drag it back into the trees again, because it's uncommon for for lion and hyena to venture into the trees. They generally stay out on the plains, and I think that these leopard be very clever and very wise to hunt specifically warthog. And the reason why I say specifically warthog is because the termite mounds, which will grow in unsaturated soil, are closer to the fringes of the trees. And the termite mounds are where the warthogs will dig their burrows, and where hyena will excavate burrows. And aardvark, actually, in fact, right in front of us, you can see the sort of remnants of one right here. Let's just have a look. As soon as we've seen enough of those, what you can see there in the distance on the edge of the swamp, all those zebra still there. It's just been such a nice journey. To be honest, this is my favorite road that we've been traveling on today, barring none. Tess, you wanted to know if different animals will select traveling through the plains and the river, or riverine bush, or will they be specific to both, I suppose? Tess, you do get animals that enjoy short grass. You do get animals that enjoy the slopes of the mountains on short grass. You get animals that enjoy the trees and only the trees. And then you get animals that like both. So I would say that an elephant would be like an animal that likes both. An animal that enjoys the trees, the slopes, the riverine bush, the grassland. Animals like zebra would enjoy slightly taller grass, wildebeest slightly shorter grass, and even shorter than that would be the Coke's hartebeest. Coke's hartebeest now not only enjoying short grass, but also only short grass on slopes. Mixed into that would be Impala. Impala enjoy open areas at night, slightly forested areas during the day, and then you have things like bushbuck, for instance, and bush pig, which are virtually stuck inside the riverine forest. So you have this whole range of animals that utilize different parts of the bush at either different times of the day, or they've specialized so much that they actually can't leave their environment. And that's what's so sad when the environment changes, is that animals that are so highly specialized to any particular area, they have to move either to a new area, or if the habitat totally disappears, they disappear from that particular environment or that particular bush, and they may even go locally extinct or extinct in general. And it's that you've got to watch out for when you're doing things. Quite often we have, in trying to do one thing, we have a ripple effect on another, and it's wise to think about all these ripple effects. However, in that's going down a dark path this morning. I don't want to do that. This drive has been way too nice for that so far, and it's just fantastic that we've managed to travel all the way from the forests out there in the background, all the way around the swamp. I haven't been able to do that at all yet. I've been looking at the swamp with much joy, and I'm glad that I've shared that with you this morning. All right, we're going to be saying goodbye, myself and Senzo, from this safari. I will see you this afternoon again, and in the meantime, we're going to be sending you 3,000 miles south to Tristan.
Well, we had a beautiful crested barbet that has just decided to depart the scene, and, well, that's the way it goes. So nice to have the big boss back with Senzo and out and about, and because I said that I would hug a tree for Stef, and we know Stef loves a marula, I'm going to go and do not only hugging of a tree, but my best leopard impersonation, because we had, well, no leopards either. So we'll have to climb up, and then, hold on, there we go. That's it, leopard and hugging of a tree all in one. So I'll hug it as well as then hang like a leopard too. Now, of course, the show is starting to come to an end, so I can't stay on here for too long. So I'm going to have to quickly get back to the car so that I can listen to Alice count me down, because otherwise I'm just going to run way over time. Well, I might be in trouble then with Alice, so I'm going to quickly try and get back. Now, we came onto quarantine because I thought maybe the zebras that were seen on the dam cam earlier would be around, but alas, they're not here either. So it seems like one of those mornings of, well, tough times and no animals. And it's probably because of the wind this morning. The wind is not very pleasant at all. I really don't know how leopards make that look comfortable. It was not comfortable in any way to lie like that. So I'm pretty sure leopards have some sort of special technique to it that, well, I lack the sort of ways of doing it, because like I say, it was less than comfortable to be lying like that, and I was there all of about 10 seconds, not a full day lying up there. So I'd imagine there's some better way to do it, and I suppose our limbs are not really designed for things like that. Maybe the fur cushions the blow. Now, it's been a great morning to be out. I know we haven't seen very much, but I've thoroughly enjoyed being with all of you, and nice to see our giraffe bull at the end and have Stef on our screens again. It's always good to see the big boss out and about, and also just to have a quick cameo of Brent. So from myself and Seb, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, and hopefully this afternoon will be a lot busier, and we'll see you on the Sunset Safari.